second. Okay, hold on. Okay, here we go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brayden Haddad, and over the summer, I read Fahrenheit 451. And when I read that, I came up with my thesis, The Negative Impact of Censorship in a Fast-Paced Society, as seen in Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. It's a book about an oppressive government that censors its people by censoring the information they get and by manipulating the media. I decided to focus on the characters in this story because I believe through humanity's natural empathy, we can connect to characters, and if we can connect to characters, we can see what they're going through and try to change or try to block what their situation they're going to. A basic summary of the book is that Montag, our protagonist, figures out that he is in this paradigm of censorship where the government is taking over and forcing ideas upon him, and he doesn't like that, of course. I don't think anybody would like to be forced to think a certain way. So as he's going along in interaction with his wife, his wife's friends, his own boss, he realizes that he needs to leave and that he doesn't belong there. And whenever he leaves, he becomes a metaphorical book himself. First, I wanted to start off with one of the main characters, Mildred, which is Montag's wife. And she is seen as one of the most emptiest characters. She is addicted to pleasure and tries to suppress her own thoughts. She takes sleeping pills to numb her brain, and she watches TV constantly to put her in a reality where she doesn't belong in. She wants to pretend like these issues aren't happening with her. She wants to suppress her emotions. She wants to censor the idea of sadness or the idea of mental issues. She also wears things like AirPods where they cover her ear and play meaningless sounds so that she doesn't think about what she's thinking about. It plays like white noise and helps calm her down and makes her more steadfast. We see that through whenever she calls the parlor, which is her TV room, her family. And as everybody knows, blood is thicker than water. To have a relationship with your family is a strong connection between people that's unconditional love. So if she's calling her parlor, her TV room, her family, it shows her disconnect from what she actually loves and what she wants. She wants to be somewhere where she's not. She's a wife and a stay-at-home mom in a dystopian society. She doesn't want to be in that society. So what does she do? She turns to technology to distract her from where she's at the current moment. Her friends, Mrs. Phelps and Miss Bowles, are two sides of the same coin. One supports the family and one doesn't. However, the one that supports the family only does it out of necessity for humanity. She objectifies her children and makes them seem like chores or just household objects. Miss Bowles is seen, she sees her kids 3 days out of the month. And whenever she sees them, she throws them into the parlor. She says that it's like turning on laundry. It's just another activity she's forced to do. And since she objectifies her kids, you can say that she associates them as like chores. And that's not healthy for children, nor is it healthy for her. Not only is that showing her selfishness and her lack of love for her kids, but also negatively affects her own kids. If you are raised in a place of like hurt, you're going to be hurt. And hurt people. And so you're just continuing this chain of hurt that affects everybody. But why would a government want a hurt society? Why would the government want somebody that's damaged? Well, humans they don't like change, as we all know. We like to stay where we're at. And if these people are raised in a situation where it's hurt all the time, then if the government puts more hurt, it's not going to affect them as much because they're just used to the norm. They are suppressed and believe that this is all that it can be. This is all the good that can come out of this. I'm stuck in the situation I'm in, and that's all that's going to happen. And Miss Phelps is the other way around. She doesn't have any kids. She hates the idea of kids. She doesn't want to go through the pain. She doesn't want to go through the labor of having kids. She's disgusted when Montag asks her, and she doesn't understand why. She gets angry, and she questions it after, why was I angry? What was the reason? This shows her disconnect from herself. Miss Phelps is also seen making fun of the dead. She says that wars never have dead people. There's no death in wars, only suicide, like Gloria's husband last week. She mocks the idea that death and suicide aren't don't affect her. It's not her problem because it's not her husband. When Montag reads a poem called "The Sea of Faith" by Matthew Arnold, which is about war and the death and trauma and the tragedy of it, she is grief-stricken and she's crying because she realizes that her husband's in that war, and that everything that she's been told and everything that is what's been going on in the media is lies. The government told all the wives that war would be over in 48 hours. And as most people know, wars do not end in 48 hours. Wars are long-lasting and tragic. So when she realizes that her husband might not be coming home, she's grief-stricken. She's crying, but she doesn't know why. She is so suppressed and so emotionally distant that she can't even understand why she's mourning her own husband. And you can see in the person that one of the characters that likes the idea of that is Edie, which is head of Fahrenheit 451, or the fire brigade. He is walking manipulation. He knows that there is a paradigm. He understands that the government and what they're doing, but he chooses to remain inside the condemnation. He taunts everybody. He even memorizes scriptures from books, the things that he's trying to burn. Oh, did I forget to mention? The firefighters don't stop fires. They start them. They burn houses and they burn the information that could corrupt its people. And he is seen coddling people. He doesn't believe that humanity has the capability to learn. He doesn't believe that people should know the truth, that they can't handle the truth. Only he can handle the truth. He reads these books and takes control of the books because he believes he's superior. But little does he know that he's also being manipulated in that situation. Beatty has power only because the government gives him that power. If the government didn't say he had that power, he would be powerless. He thinks he's the superior mega mind. He thinks he's all that. He's on top of everything. But in reality, he's being controlled as well. He's just doing the government's bidding. He's just another cog in the machine. In his last moments, he is seen taunting someone, and he doesn't understand that people have wills, and people's will is to live. So he dies where he started. He dies to the fire hose gun, and he's engulfed in flames. Well, the person that has the flamethrower so happens to be our protagonist, Montag. Yay! Now, most people don't think protagonists would kill people, but Montag did, and he did it for a good reason. Montag was just like every other person in the beginning. He was just a civilian and a firefighter, and he believed what he was doing was righteous and good for the society. It is not only when somebody asks him, "Are you truly happy?" does he ponder that question and think, "Am I really happy?" He starts to see the corruption around him. He starts to see his wife try to commit suicide. He sees these women that don't understand themselves and what's going on. He sees his captain take control of him and the way he thinks, that he realizes something needs to change. So he leaves society after all these experiences. He runs away, he gets away, and joins a group of wanderers. Now, these wanderers are dedicated to bringing back society the way it was. They memorize one book, and they put it in their heads so they don't have paper. So they memorize one book, and one day they are out to go use that book and try to teach people through the knowledge of it. Montag gets assigned a book, and he gets assigned the book of Ecclesiastes. If you don't know what that book is, it's one of the books from King Solomon. King Solomon is one of the most wisest people in the Bible. God gave him wisdom, and he used it for good. He wrote about how, in Ecclesiastes, he wrote about how humanly pleasures aren't important, that there's no reason for them, that eventually all human pleasures will have to come to an end. He says that we should be focused on God and enjoy life to the fullest. And it's ironic because Montag becomes that. He was humanly pleasures. He was part of this idea that you have to be completely satisfied all the time, and if you're not, what worth is it? So for him becoming Ecclesiastes, he becomes a walking example of what not to be. He becomes what society should be. So how would we stop the censorship, and how would we not make it come into our society today? Well, I said that there's three things that I think that are very important that we can implement in our society that could impact us. The first one is to crave knowledge and understanding. If we can crave the idea to know what we're actually talking about and to push forward the idea that we need to know, then we won't fall under the people that actually do know. Another thing is to have the courage to speak up and to speak up. If we don't speak up when we see issues, nothing will ever change. Which you can see through Beatty whenever he realizes in the paradigm that he didn't say anything about it. And lastly, is to implicate wisdom into our lives, to make wisdom fashionable, to make the idea that we understand and we choose to go on the right path instead of the wrong. And I think that's how we will avoid nonsense society. Thank you. Questions?
So, talk about an oppressive government and people drowning in human pleasures. How do you think you can see that in today's time?
Well, first, we can see that in social media. People putting on filters, people putting on personas for everyone else to see. You can see it in our politicians, and you can see it in our garbage people. I don't know. You can see it with everybody that we want to perform to look like we're someone we're not. We try to hide our imperfections, but we should really believe that everyone's imperfect, so we should all glorify what we see perfect in each other. I believe that we see that in our society. Any other questions?
Okay. So you talked about hurt begetting hurt, and then for us to break the inertia of that was to crave knowledge, courage, and have and look for wisdom. What did they do in the book to change this paradigm shift?
They didn't. So at the end of the book, the city gets destroyed. After Montag leaves, the city gets decimated and flattened. There's nobody left in society because the government decided that they're not worth fighting for anymore. Like I said, they were in a wartime. So once they realized that people were beginning to rebel and people were starting to act out, they decided that it wasn't worth to have a rebellious society, so they decimated them and got rid of them. So nothing really changed. But I believe through Montag, since he became the book of the Bible of Ecclesiastes, and that his experience with the new generation will help them become the hurt, stop being hurt, and we start to heal and grow from it.
I have one more question. There are no other questions from the audience. Okay. Which character did you find you related to most from the book, and why?
Okay. So, so that I didn't mention a character. His name was Faber. Faber was an English professor that knew that the book burning was coming. He understood that everything was going to go down soon, but he did nothing about it. I think that most of us can relate with that, where we understand, but we don't know what to do about it. Where we don't have the courage to speak up for it. We're too afraid that what people will judge us or how they would judge us, that we don't fight for what we believe in, and we just accept the consequences of our actions instead of fighting for a better future. So I think I relate most with Faber.
Nicely done. All right. Did you have a question? Okay.
Does it feel like a low? He said.
Stop recording.
Does it feel like a low?